The Olympic Spirit and the Islamic Spirit. Daniel Greenfield's column for Sunday, July 15th, 2012, read by Adam Taxin. Daniel Greenfield's columns can be found at sultankanish.blogspot.com. Here is the Olympic Spirit and the Islamic Spirit. In a sign of the times, the London Summer Olympics will be defended by anti-aircraft guns and surface-to-air missiles, just as they were in ancient Greece. G4S, the world's largest security company, was to provide 12,000 security personnel, but has so far only managed to come up with 4,000. In another sign of the times, not all of their security personnel speak English, so instead the British government will be deploying 3,000 troops, all of whom hopefully do speak English. This isn't the first time that the Olympics have come to London. They came in 1908 when the likely threat was from the Hun. They would have come again in 1944, but war intervened and London needed its anti-aircraft weapons to protect more vital targets. Instead, the Games had to be rescheduled to 1948 in a Summer Olympics known as the Austerity Games. Still, despite the post-war conditions, the Games were described as a warm flame of hope for a better understanding in the world which has burned so low. But if Europeans could hope to relate to other Europeans through sporting matches, that flame seems rather cool when London has to be ringed with anti-aircraft defenses, as in the days of the Blitz. Muslim terrorists showed the world what they thought of the Olympic spirit in the Summer Olympics of 1972, and ever since then the shadow of Muslim terror has darkened the flames of the torches. Since then, terrorist threats have become an annual event. Russia is already claiming to have foiled Muslim terrorist attacks aimed at the 2014 Olympics. Even China got into the new Olympic spirit, foiling several attacks against the 2008 Games. There is a sort of unity in every non-Muslim nation that hosts the Games scrambling to deal with Muslim terrorist threats, a shameful silent unity that no one will dare mention out loud. Terrorism has become the true international sport, and newspapers spend almost as much time forecasting the types of terrorist attacks that may be tried as they do discussing the athletes. Will it be nerve gas this year, a drone attack, or perhaps an old-fashioned suicide bombing that seems almost quaint now? In March, there were reports of cyanide hand creams. In May, it was poison drones. In July, it could be anything. Most likely, though, there will be no attack at all. And if one comes, it will be the usual bomb in a car or bomb in a backpack thing that even the soldiers of Allah have a 40-60 chance of not screwing up. But that isn't really the point. Hitler's V-2 rockets were not terribly accurate, but they weren't meant to be. They were weapons of terror, and those work best when they are random. Sieges are more devastating to morale than actual battles. The fear that an attack could come at any time and in any place drains away courage and replaces it with fear until any demand that the enemy makes is met with relieved acceptance. Random terror is the weapon of the weak, whether it was the declining forces of Nazi Germany or the viciously stupid armies of diversity plotting to impose Islamic law by killing a few hundred people here or there. The scrum of preparations and the frantic media panics makes them feel strong and potent. As much as Islamic terrorists love their inky Qurans, they love the sight of their names in the paper even more. Reading that the entire country is terrified of them does wonders for their morale even as it plummets our own. There are few open mentions of who the enemy might be that all those weapons and soldiers are directed against. All we know is that they are extremists who are extremely keen on blowing things up for the mysterious unknown reasons that extremists do things, possibly outrage over student tuition or spending cuts. Of course, everyone knows, but everyone is also polite enough to say nothing. It's easier to order a few thousand more guards, some of whom may speak English, and throw up some surface-to-air missiles than to discuss why these things are as much a part of the Olympics as torches, medals, and rings. The ring of steel around London isn't there to protect against German warplanes, but against the men and women with British passports and accents from Manchester, Birmingham, and London, who burn with another kind of flame. Not the flame of the Olympic spirit, but the flame of the Islamic spirit. 1 out of 4 British Muslims say that the 7/7 bombings were justified. 33% say killing in the name of religion is justified. 61% want Sharia courts operating under Islamic law. With nearly 3 million British Muslims, that's nearly 750,000 potential terrorists to a mere 12,000 guards. The sight of British soldiers fresh from patrolling Afghanistan being retasked to guard London should be enormously significant as a sign of things to come. There are already 16 million Muslims in the European Union. That's half of Afghanistan. With high birth rates and population doubling, there will be an entire Afghanistan's worth of Muslims in the EU within 2 decades. NATO was unable to hold Afghanistan, but it might consider that as practice for the more vital task of holding London and Paris. And it will need a good deal more men in anti-aircraft weapons than that are there all through their year. Naturally, no one is thinking of that now, just as when the flood of immigrants began, no one was thinking that the next time the Olympics came to London, it would take 20 battalions and weapons designed to fight a Soviet invasion just to secure the Brotherhood Games of mankind. Considering that no one had enough wit to have enough guards in place for the Olympics, it isn't likely that the same system frantically deploying troops now is thinking 20 years ahead. That's a pity, because the enemy, the bearded men in basement mosques who inspire Muslims to blow themselves up, are thinking 20 years ahead. They're also thinking 200 years ahead to an Islamic London, which will be as likely to play host to games full of half-naked athletes and pagan symbols as it will be to host a free press or a pub. The idea sounds absurd, but then again, Istanbul used to be called Constantinople. The thing about absurd ideas is that they only stay absurd if someone stops them from being carried out. As the immigrants keep coming, nailing down refugee status, dole payments, and several wives, there will eventually be enough of them around so that the 61% that want Sharia law will get their way, just as they did in Egypt. It will take a while, but that just means there will be plenty more terror alerts to look forward to in the interim. Pierre de Coubertin, the father of the modern Olympics, said that the important thing is not to win, but to take part. The important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. The importance of participation is the glorious slogan of diversity, but the people who might just be working out their 2012 Summer Olympics plots are not satisfied with taking part in London or Europe. They did not come there to win good conduct medals, they came to win. Their struggle, their jihad, is to conquer, and the devil take fighting well. If they have to send out dupes with bomb belts into crowded streets, they will do it. If they have to spend years smiling and commiserating over football scores, they will. If they have to resort to sneaking about, sodomy, or explosive pants, they will do those things. There is no good sportsmanship in terror. No one congratulates you for following the rules, any rules, or for empathizing with your rival as he struggles toward the finish line. In the Olympics, playing well is more important than winning because victory is materialistic, while sportsmanship is a spiritual act. To Islam, both winning and sportsmanship are materialistic. The only spiritual act is the struggle that leads to victory. There is no room for empathizing with the fallen enemy or admiring the runner who limps across the finish line. These are tests of character, and the only test of character in Islam that matters is being willing to kill or die in the name of Islam. There is no character outside Islam. There are no rules outside Islam. There is nothing outside Islam, and that means there is nothing inside Islam either. Athletics are meant to substitute for war, but the idea of finding substitutes for war is alien to the Islamic spirit. The Taliban notoriously persecuted football players, and when they took Kabul, they turned football stadiums into places of execution. Egyptian Salafi clerics are already discussing outlawing football. Mali Islamists have banned football, and Somali Islamists have murdered men for watching the World Cup. To the Islamists, sports are a distraction from what is truly important in life, a contest whose lack of meaning mocks the seriousness of their preferred sport of death. As the Ayatollah Khomeini said, there are no jokes in Islam. There is no humor in Islam. There is no fun in Islam. There can be no fun and joy in whatever is serious. And when you are as empty as Islam is, then everything is serious. When you are dead inside, there is no room for joy. When you believe that the only rule is supremacy, there is no room for sportsmanship. The armies of Muslims that have gathered in Europe, whether they know it or not, are not there to play according to any set of rules. They are not there to have fun. They are there to conquer and win. The end.